How much time? 30? 30 seconds? I'm on right now. I don't believe you. What?
Do you know these tits, Errol?
I know a lot of tits, Governor, but I don't know any quite as stupid as these two.
How do you brew, good people? Welcome to the live stream. This is the Brews at 10 on my left eye. I'm your humble host Lefty, coming to you live from the northwest of England. Solidari-Tea, everybody. Let's brew this thing. I see Davinia's enjoying a cup right now, in fact, and was first in the chat. Very fitting start. Yep, whether you're drinking tea or whatever you've got to accompany the live stream, you're all very welcome here this evening. Please hit thumbs up as you join us on stream. Idiosyncrasy also celebrating a full year of membership. That's awesome stuff. It's been great to have you here as well. The rare accolade of being a member for over 12 months. Incredible. What a great way to start the stream. I think, if memory serves, I can't remember exactly how long we've had memberships for, but that's certainly, definitely most of the way. Did you get your delivery yesterday, Davinia? And also thanks for that gifted membership. Another fantastic way to start the stream. Takes us up to 164. Where's the counter? There's the counter. Thanks again. Please big up Davinia in the chat, please, everybody. And you got your delivery this morning. That's good to know. Mo's with us as well. Very good evening, Mo. How do you brew? Yeah, that's a top way to start the chat tonight, people. And we've got a few members in the chat already. Here's the full list as we've just added another member there, thanks to Davinia's generous gifted membership. Chris, I hope you enjoy your perks. Great to have you back as a member. let's see, let's play the live in chat, my name's on the screen game as the room fills up. Graham Turner just joining us as well. Solidarity. Free Palestine. Like with how we closed the stream last night, the list just grows longer and longer, doesn't it? When I'm doing my sign off at the end, it's going to end up taking 5 minutes. Free Palestine, Yemen, Lebanon, Sudan, Venezuela, the Filton 24. So on and so forth. I really appreciate the support of all the members on the channel. Other ways you can help spread the solidarity are with super chats. They're also useful if you need my urgent attention, if you've got a point or a question. Also super thanks if you're watching back later on. And there's a Buy Me a Coffee page in the description of the stream if you don't have the means to contribute via YouTube, so please do check that out in the description. There's a link right there for you people. Thanks to those of you who've purchased us coffees, keeping us caffeinated. Whilst we bring you quality content. We'll be getting into a hastier start than usual. Not because of the caffeine, but we've got a full PMQs to get through, as well as the Liz Truss show, or the segment of, which we had to postpone from last night's stream. Apologies for that, we ran out of time, but we were busy putting the world back to rights and Donald Trump, etc. We'll catch up on some of the updates from that later on as well. So I've gotten the all clear to be able to watch a section of the Liz Truss show. Regular viewers will know that my psychiatrist had banned such things after having done a real-time reaction to her debut episode. But my psychiatrist, who now himself has a psychiatrist after how I described the show to him, but he's okay with it. It's a bit of an experiment in itself, but hopefully I won't have a full brain meltdown. Or knock myself out from face palming too hard, or whatever might happen. I mean, this is Liz Truss and Jacob Reese-Mogg in the same room. I've not seen the episode before. It will be a first time reaction, as will PMQs. It's a Wet You Whistle Wednesday on the 1st of 26. That is first PMQs, so Keith's Catchphrases League also returning. I'm hoping it could be a high scoring event this time round. So yeah, that's a first time watch for me, as well as I give you a real time reaction. It's not going to be easy on the brain, this stream. But we must suffer for justice and the revolution, people. One has to know one's enemies, doesn't one? What else has been in the news today, just very quickly, before we get into proceedings? Oh, of course. Trump attacks yet again. 2 vessels have been seized. One of them, though, carrying the Russian flag, which has only heightened diplomatic tensions further across the world. Russia are not happy about this. So far in implementing sanctions and whatnot on Venezuela, he's already upset the Chinese with seizing one of their vessels. Now Russia, of course, the two mega states are allied, super states even. One of them just happens to be the most heavily nuclear armed state in the world, with some of the most advanced missiles in the world. If you weren't on stream yesterday, we saw one clip of a chap by the name of Gao, who was very clear in what any reaction by China to direct agitation or attacks by Donald Trump would be. He made it very clear in no uncertain terms that China feel they vastly have superior weaponry to the United States, and referred to a recent military parade where one particular recent development was on shore that harbours in one missile 60 atomic bombs and one hydrogen bomb. They call it the 61 bomb for obvious reasons, and that was just one example. Brought up the hypersonic missiles that Russia have as well, but we'll see what the latest is on this diplomatic situation. Who knows, Trump might have even attacked at least one other nation by the time we come off stream. Yesterday in the poll, most of you thought that that was going to be Greenland, marginally winning yesterday's poll, and there's been more said about that today as well. So those topics coming up later, but we'll have to get going with proceedings, as I said, people, very quickly. And the opening comedy clip, someone who featured very recently actually, but has another great video out just shortly before we came on stream actually. So this is Claire Blackwood doing another great impression of Caroline Leavitt, who's of course the Republican spokes for Trump. There'll be a link in the description for the channel on this video as well, so do check it out and subscribe. Claire Blackwood.
Good afternoon, White House press corps. I wish you nothing but suffering in the year of our Lord Donald Trump 2026. I am here today to talk about Canada, otherwise known as the America of the North, but colder. After the president personally and bravely took up arms and carried out the most legal invasion the world has ever seen in Venezuela this weekend, NATO has been a judgmental little bitch about it. As we all know, NATO stands for Non-American Trump Opponents, which means that if you were a part of it, you were an enemy of America. Canada is the largest enemy of all, and by that, I mean you have a lot of land that we want. Canada, you weren't supposed to be conquered until after Greenland, Mexico, Cuba, and whatever other Latin American countries are left. But since it's obvious that your Prime Minister Mike Carney is too scared to fight us, we have bumped you up to the top of the list. Congratulations, and welcome to America. Canada has many things the US wants, including oil, drinkable beer, and Justin Bieber, who Donald Trump wishes to hunt for sport. In return, as the 51st state, you will receive negative health care, one gun for every school-aged child, and the healthiest, smartest, most virile president in history. As Stephen Miller said Monday after being released from his coffin, the United States...
This is actually less crazy than the real thing when you think about it though, isn't it, people? This is great stuff from Claire Blackwood.
...is a superpower, and we will use our military to protect you from us. And to the Canadians thinking about taking up arms and resisting, be warned. Your annoying little politician man named Pierre Poilievre has already agreed to give us your names and addresses in exchange for a few pieces of sexy American lumber. And Danielle Smith sold us Alberta months ago. So to all Canadians, you are welcome in advance. America will kidnap you from communist socialism and drag you kicking and screaming into the land of freedom, whether you like it or not. But feel free to keep writing your strongly worded emails. Any questions? Yes, French will be banned because the president is afraid of it. Thank you. That is all. And we will see you as soon as Mr. Trump remembers who, where, and what he is. Hi.
Claire Blackwood, check out the link in the description. I'll put that on after the stream, or just go and bookmark something yourself, but do go and subscribe to the channel. Really good parody of Caroline Levitt there. I hope there's going to be more of those to come. For now, we must move on swiftly. To Parliament, people, to Parliament. So we hasten, not with gunpowder and plots, I should also add. However, we go with the Keith's Catchphrase League, which is returning after the holiday/New Year's break. And Davinia Robbins celebrating with some Lindsay Hoyle static emojis there. No spoilers, please, if you have already seen this. It's a first time watch for me. Let's get cracking.
Oh no!
We now come to Prime Minister's questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Deliver. Black hole. Plan for change. 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 Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, it's good to be back. Although I might instantly regret that decision, given the quality of the session we're talking about. Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch mostly here. But what is Keith's Catchphrases all about, for those of you who don't know? I'll quickly talk you through the rules. Pretty straightforward, really. We have two words or phrases against one another, calling out the sessions for their repetitiveness, well, calling out Keir Starmer specifically for the lack of range within his vocabulary. So, contending phrases must be spoken by Starmer, as I just mentioned. It's a winner stays on format unless they've played all of the other contenders. It was a 5-1 win for Security before we went on the break against Plan. So Security will be the defending champion this week. We'll see who they're up against in just a moment. But rule number 3 is that slight variations are allowed on each of the words or phrases. For example, past tenses, pluralisation, etc. And in the league, it's 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and nothing for a loss. The season will last until summer break this year, which is the first time I've said that one. Or Keir Starmer steps down. Of course, no Keith's Catchphrases. Unless the next leader of the Labour Party's name also begins with a C or a K, then I'm not too sure. We might have to change it entirely, we'll see. But of course we all know it's likely to be the latter of those that comes first. So those are the rules. Let's take a quick look at the current standings. We'll go from the bottom to the top. There are still some contenders who haven't played yet, as you can see, and a mystery contender who is as yet to be identified or decided. Possibly by viewer poll. So, more on that in the weeks to come. Still a long way to go in the season. Well, May's elections at least. You can see there as well, Black Hole being one of the other contenders who hasn't had a game yet. So no points, 0 points for anybody in the bottom half, with Deal, you can see in 6th, having played once, as well as Fix in 8th, and Inheritance in 9th place there. Up at the top, you can see the leader, Postman Twat, and Deliver, who's played 4 and accumulated 10 points, and is 3 ahead of budget. But with a win before we went to break, as I mentioned, Security is now in 3rd position with 3 points. We'll see if they can make any advance this week. I can now reveal that he will be in a pretty tough fight against the current league leader, Postman Twat, with Security being one of the few contenders that hasn't played against Postman Twat, for Deliver, that is. Okay, so those are the standings. The top half will certainly change in one way or another come the end of the session. Let's see how that all pans out. Let's strap ourselves in, get over to the House of Commons. Take it away, Lindsay Hoyle. You useless flannel.
Netherlands and his delegation who are with us in the gallery today. Prime Minister's questions.
Now,
Ruth Cadbury.
Question number 1, Mr.
God
Speaker.
damn, he's good.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, can I begin by saying I hope all colleagues had a happy Christmas. It probably feels quite a long time ago now, but not for reform, of
now
course,
we're at war.
because today is the day that they celebrate Christmas in Russia. Mr. Speaker.
Is he? Well, what about the actual one in Bethlehem? You bastard.
On Monday, I visited Reading, where I met with people who will benefit from the first freeze in rail fares for 30 years. Mr. Speaker, that's on top of other measures we're taking to tackle the cost of living. £150 off energy bills, more free breakfast clubs and raising the minimum wage. And there's much more to come this year, Mr. Speaker, as we turn the corner. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I stood side by side with our European and American allies and President Zelensky at the Coalition of the Willing meeting in Paris. Mr. Speaker, we made real progress on security guarantees, which are vital for securing a just and lasting peace. Along with President Macron and President Zelensky, we agreed...
Very quick double there from Security. I'm allowing securing as well as a variable, I should say. So an immediate 2-0. For Security. Where is it? There it is. Okay. 2-0. On we go.
Declaration of intent on the deployment of forces in the event of a peace deal. Mr. Speaker, we will set out the details in a statement at the earliest opportunity. I will keep the House updated as the situation develops, and were troops to be deployed under the declaration signed, I would put that matter to the House for a vote. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in the House, I had further such meetings later today.
Well, the debate before that vote's certainly going to be a hot potato, isn't it, people? Hopefully people will put their consciences first, but we'll have to see. You'll have to forgive my lack of optimism where that's concerned, given our country's reputation. Cough, cough. Iraq, cough, cough. Afghanistan, cough, cough. Syria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Leaseholders in my constituency and across the country are being fleeced by freeholders and managing agents, and they need relief from from both, and we need to end the feudal leasehold system. So could the Prime Minister confirm when the leasehold and common hold reform bill will be coming to Parliament?
Thank you for raising this important issue. We are taking serious action to deliver homes the country needs and provide homeowners with greater rights, powers and protections. We will publish the draft bill as soon as possible, and I'll update the House. More protections, of course, are already coming this year because we passed the Renters' Rights Bill, stronger protection for 9 million renters, abolishing no-fault evictions. That's the change we're delivering. And who voted against it? Tories and Reform.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Bernal.
2-1, Postman Swap fights back. Would deliver.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, may I welcome the Prime Minister's efforts to advance peace in Ukraine and his joint statement on Greenland. The last few days have seen significant international events. The US operation in Venezuela, threats towards Greenland, and an agreement to put British troops on the ground in Ukraine. So it is frankly astonishing that the Prime Minister is not making a full statement to Parliament today. No Prime Minister, Labour or Conservative, has failed to make a statement to the House in person after committing to the deployment of British troops. His comments about making a statement in due course, quite frankly, are not good enough. It shows a fundamental lack of respect for all of us here and the people we represent. Mr. Speaker, the US is Britain's closest military ally. However, we are clear that the sovereignty of Greenland is sacrosanct. So can the Prime Minister tell us what influence is he bringing to bear with the US administration to ensure that is respected?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear about what was agreed yesterday, because military plans were drawn up some months ago, and I've updated the House in relation to that. Yesterday was a political declaration that sits under those military plans. If there were to be deployment, there would have to be a legal instrument. Mr. Speaker, deployment would only be after a ceasefire to support Ukraine's capabilities.
Shouty Bloke, welcome to standard membership. Thanks a lot for the support. Solidarity, I've updated the membership goal there. A shout out for the Shouty Bloke, please. In the chat, please, everybody. Big up, big up.
To conduct deterrent operations and to construct and protect military hubs. Mr. Speaker, there will be a statement to the House at the earliest opportunity. There could hardly be an opportunity. They claim they want to know about this, and they're trying to shout me down. Mr. Speaker, in relation to the House, if there were a decision to deploy under the agreement that was signed yesterday, then I would put that matter to this House.
And thank you to James Holmes as well for 5 gifted memberships. Awesome stuff there. Big up James Holmes. In the chat, please, everybody. 170 now. Could we get over the 200 mark this week? Let's keep that hype train going. And in fact, we are. The acceleration continues. We're on the hype train now from Manchester. Next stop, Revolution City, where this service will terminate, as will capitalism. Okay, going full frog. Thank you very much. But it looks... Oh, no. It looks as though they've bounced back. Yeah, apologies for that. So 3 of James Holmes's have gone through out of the 5. So that'll put us on 168. And unfortunately, none of those. But thank you very much for the attempt anyway. We should still big up going full frog. So I'll just adjust the total now. Yeah, so take 2 off of James's. That's right. 168. Appreciate the efforts. This actually happened on a stream the other week as well. In fact, I dare say that we would be over the 200 mark. Sly Loris, though, has just joined us. It's all going on. It's all happening at once here on tonight's stream, people. That takes us up to 169. serious real-time accounting going on. Thank you very much again for that. Let's please big up Sly Loris in the chat, everybody. Big up, big up. Yeah, that's joining yourself, so that's gone through. It's not a gifted membership. That one's confirmed. I'll just double check. On YouTube Studio, 6 new members in total through the stream. And we were on 163, weren't we, when we started, so that's quite correct. MIDI Doctors, thanks for the attempt. It looks as though those haven't gone through either. I've no idea why this happens. It happened last year, quite early on in the year, for a period of time. I didn't really get any satisfactory answers from my inquiries either. It just appears to be a glitch at the moment, as does YouTube handles appearing instead of your actual names, as it were. That's out of my hands, unfortunately, people. My settings and whatnots are all as they should be. So those of you that have attempted will get a refund. Thanks for confirming that you did on those recent 5 as well, please. Thanks again, Davinia. Right, let's get back to Parliament. Thank you for all the attempts. And welcome again, MIDI Doctors. Welcome back once again.
For a debate beforehand and for a vote on that deployment. That is consistent with recent practice, and I'll adhere to that.
Mr. Speaker, why is today not the earliest opportunity? The truth is, the Prime Minister does not want everybody in this House to be able to ask him questions. So he leaves it just to Prime Minister's questions half an hour. On Monday, at least his Foreign Secretary stood up for...
People just want to interject again. Yeah, Davinia, thank you very much for those recent 50 gifted memberships on the tribute stream. Just an update on that as well. Received a lovely message from Vicky's husband thanking us for the tribute donations, which I matched and rounded up. And just to let you know, it's been decided that the donations will be going to the Samaritans, which is a cause that Vicky was very supportive of as well. So thank you very much again for all of those lovely tributes on that stream. Really do appreciate those. It was an emotional one, but really do appreciate it, people. What a great audience we've got.
2 hours and 15 minutes. You know, it was a non-event, but at least she did that. He is scared of us being able to ask him questions. Yes. 6 questions. Yes, he's here.
Please.
Well, just before Flannel Lips himself interrupts, MIDI Doctors, we did consider that possibility, but the way I understand it works is when you gift a membership, it selects a random subscriber, and we're very pleased and proud to say that we have over 5.5 thousand at the moment. So with us being in the hundreds of members, it does sort of rule that theory out in a sense, but if anybody else has any other thoughts about why it might be happening, do post your theories in the chats.
I've also requested that we do need an early statement. This House should always be informed first. So I don't like the chantering. Let the questions continue.
Well, one of them asked, but he is here. He's got no choice but to be here for Prime Minister's questions. That's why he's here. If he could skip this, we know he would do. But back to the matter at hand, Mr. Speaker. We all agree, all of us here agree, I think most of us here agree, that NATO is the bedrock of our security. The future of Greenland is...
Of our security. So everybody got that? It's very important. It's the... I don't think enough is said about our security in the mainstream media, and I'm going to start an immediate campaign about this. This is a rare occasion where my opinion is in alignment with Kemi Badenoch's. Are you with me on this one, people? Our security. Get to work on some banners and some placards and some signs. Our security. Don't be a bum. organise for our security.
No, he would do. But back to the matter at hand, Mr. Speaker. We all agree, all of us here agree, I think well, most of us here agree, that NATO is the bedrock of our security.
Sorry, it's just the way she says it.
The future of Greenland is of fundamental importance to the future of the alliance. And I am sure that the Prime Minister agrees that it is essential for NATO leaders, including and especially the US, to meet. Will the Prime Minister call for an urgent meeting of NATO leaders?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker,
On the serious point, though, yeah, of course, this hypothetical Greenland scenario would be the death knell for NATO. America are trying to big it up and say that NATO would be nothing without them. On the contrary, if you rule the US out of NATO, they would still vastly outweigh the US in many areas of weaponry. I saw a chart the other day across many boards, so perhaps not as overwhelming as they like to act that they are. That is the United States of America.
says she wants
Delta Force. Fuck yeah.
to hear about Ukraine. She's got 6 questions. She's not even asking a second question about what we did yesterday. She's got the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, in relation...
Sorry, can I help the Prime Minister? You don't need to worry about the responsibility of the questions of the opposition. That's their...
Mr. Speaker, NATO is the single most important and effective military alliance the world has ever seen.
Yes, and our security is paramount where that's concerned, Keith. James Holmes, thank you very much for sharing those sentiments about our security. You hope it works. Will this go through? Well, it has gone through, if you mean that the super chats. Will this go, though? Or do you mean, will this go, though, as in the campaign? Perhaps. Thanks again, James Holmes, for that super chat there. Excuse me. Security. This is a serious channel about politics and society from a left-wing point of view, people. Let's continue with some serious in-depth analysis of this week's Prime Minister's questions from the Houses of Parliament.
In the 18 months we've been in power, I've done everything within my ability to strengthen NATO. We had one of the strongest NATO meetings last year, the summit, where we had more members of NATO and more unity. When I arrived back to the House to make a statement, which of course she asked for, her position was I shouldn't have missed PMQs, I should have empty chaired the NATO summit. That's how serious she is about NATO, Mr. Speaker.
You didn't answer the question, Mr. Speaker. I asked him if he would call for an urgent meeting of NATO leaders. We can all see that the situation is moving rapidly. I also note that he...
What, you think Trump's going to go to something like that? Because he knows he's just going to get berated, and he doesn't like that. He just likes to be surrounded by people who tell him that he's right. Sycophants, bootlickers, Keir Starmer, basically, and J.D. Vance, and... all the rest of them, but he's not going to be up for that. Even if you do manage to get, you might be able to get a large section of NATO heads of state together, but ultimately this is about Trump and Greenland, so he'd probably have to be present if anything substantial was going to come from it. So, but it's not the great idea that Kemi Badenoch might think it is, because you have to acknowledge the reality that it is Donald Trump who is head of state, which makes me shudder to say. But going full frog, thank you very much for another super chat there. Big up, big up. Let's keep this hype train going, people. Our security is essential to prevent unexpected accidents. Excellent point there. Excellent point. I wholeheartedly agree. Nobody of sound mind could have anything to say against that. Our security is essential to prevent unexpected accidents. Well said there. Going full frog, thank you very much again for the super chat.
has still not had a call with President Trump. That is concerning 4 days after the events in Venezuela.
Oh, I just had a crazy idea right out of left field, people. Let me lay this one on you. What if our security links up with Delta Force? Well, think of the potential there. Potential for calamity, perhaps.
But yesterday, he announced that Britain and France had signed, he says, a political agreement to put troops on the ground in the event of a peace deal in Ukraine. So given the Prime Minister is not making a statement...
More appreciation for our security coming in there from James Holmes and Davinia Robbins. Thank you very much for those. Let's hit thumbs up and show some love for those 2 super chats. Our security is the word of the year. Our security. Yes. It gets even better. Our security.
In Europe, in particularly security guarantees.
Oh, there's one in there, at least. I won't hit the bell just yet, because we'll skip back. Had the volume down while Keith was speaking. I'll get poised and ready. There was definitely a security in there, though.
How many troops would be sent to Ukraine, and whether they would be in a combat role?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I was with NATO allies yesterday, all day, in which we were discussing security in Europe, in particularly security guarantees for Ukraine,
double.
And we made significant progress. And I'm glad that she has welcomed that.
4-1 now.
Of course, I will speak to President Trump. I spoke to his senior
This is an impressive defence
yesterday. We were with
from
them,
security.
We were with them all day. But Mr. Speaker, she asked me about the deployment. We released the statement yesterday. It's clear from that, but I will be clear with the House that there was...
Just to remind you, security's not up against some street bum. This is Postman Swat we're talking about here. It's giving me a psychological complex, for God's sake. The league leader went on an incredible run last year before it switched to a league format. And it was just a knockout winner stays on thing. 4-1. Let's see how things proceed.
It would only be deployment after a ceasefire. It would be to support Ukraine's capabilities. It would be to conduct deterrence operations and to construct and protect military hubs. The number will be determined in accordance with our military plans, which we are drawing up and looking to other members to support. So the number I will put before the House before we were to deploy. But I'll do more than that. If we went as far as a legal instrument to deploy, which would be necessary, I would then have a debate.
Now, while the funding might be increasing to the highest levels, well, the proposals to increase it to the highest level since, the end of the Cold War, late 1980s, early 1990s, and but the personnel doesn't just appear out of nowhere. They'll try and do recruitment drives. I would hope that conscription won't come into this matter, most certainly. But we barely have anything anymore these days, and a lot of the warmongers have this sort of distorted nostalgia for previous world wars, even though they weren't alive at the time. But those who get a hard-on for war would certainly like to fantasize that we perhaps have, the capability of huge swathes and to carry out these massive operations such as D-Day or the operations in North Africa and so on and so forth. Huge coordinated efforts. We just don't have those kind of numbers of personnel anymore. Yes, we have higher tech these days, but when it's going to come to troops on the ground, there's one clear runaway winner in that scenario. Do you know who it is, people? It's a small little nation. It's a very new nation. You might have heard of it. China.
in this House so all members could know exactly what we're doing, make their points of view, and then we would have a vote in this House on the issue, which, to my mind, is the proper procedure in a situation such as this.
Mr. Speaker, it is clear that the Prime Minister either does not have the detail or does not want to give us the detail. Yes. But
for God's sake, she's thick as semolina. Look, even I will admit that they're in the early stages of drawing up these hypothetical plans, so he's not going to have an exact number for how many troops are going to be there. Kemi, don't let, she never lets it go. She has 6 questions, usually at least half of them are exactly the same. And she was answered in this case, but she simply doesn't understand that it's this far in that it's this early in the game that he's not going to have those kind of numbers. Even I know that. I'm not a fan of Keir Starmer. I'm not trying to defend him. Come on, Kemi. This is very poor indeed.
this is important. He should be calling an urgent meeting of NATO leaders. He should have spoken to President Trump by now. This is important because if any such peace deal is breached, we would be in direct conflict with Russia. If the Prime Minister is committing...
Aaron, you're thinking about 15,000. Well, realistically, we might be looking at those sort of numbers if boots in the ground, on the ground, not in the ground. Well, some of them might end up in the ground when you come to think of it. But back on track, that's 15,000 people versus Russia. I don't care if it's 15,000 fucking ninjas. Ninja Jedi, Imard fucking Bruce Lee's. Yeah, it's not going to happen. 15,000, whatever America might throw into it. Let's say they might throw in 50,000. No chance. Just wave after wave will come. Russia is a very old state. Far older than the United States. So is China. I think they're a lot more optimistic about how this should turn out for them than they should be when you take a real look at the numbers and the countries that are involved in this. Can't believe that we're having these conversations either as well. And again, is this what it's come to? This boils down to the superpowers, whether it's World War I, you know, Germany and the Entente Cordiale and then the Schlieffen Plan and one superpower trying to take out the competition, the rest of them. Then again in World War II. It's just, when will it end? When does it end? And then again it boils down to the United States, Russia and China and their allies who they're affiliated with, aligned with, officially. Let's please hope it doesn't go this way for the third time in terms of world wars, because by now the nuclear capabilities, for example, spell absolute catastrophe. Everybody knows that World War III would likely be the last one because there won't be anybody left. And now they're salivating at the facts. Kemi Badenoch. Oh, so we're going to go, oh, this is great. How many troops are we going to send? Yay. She's getting her toy soldiers out already. Might as well start strumming herself off at the prospects on the fucking dispatch box at this point. And Keith's a big fan of war as well, of course. Unbelievable that we should live in such times.
Troops, he must give more detail on how he intends to ensure our armed forces are fully resourced. Before the budget, the Prime Minister said it was his ambition to spend 3% on defence in the next Parliament. That could be as late as 2034. It is time to move from ambition to commitment. We have now had the budget. So can the Prime Minister now tell us, in what year will the UK spend 3% of GDP on defence?
Prime Minister.
Ooh, scary dairy question.
Just on this serious issue she puts to me in relation to security guarantees and the American...
Look, Rachel Reeves. I won't attempt an impersonation. But she's absolutely appalled at the... you can almost forgive Rachel Reeves for that expression on her face, because that was just... she thought that was a real hardball question. What year, then, are we going to get 3.5% of GDP spent on defence and this sort of thing? Because we'd have done it yesterday, because we're the Tories. Remember Iraq 1? Remember the Falklands? Let's go. Remember Syria?
Role and our dialogue with the Americans. I can assure the House I spoke to President Trump twice over the Christmas period in relation to this specific issue, along with members of the E3, along with European allies. That has been a constant course of our discussion. There's no question of acting on this without full discussion with the Americans, and their senior negotiators were there at President Trump's request yesterday and on his instructions, and they were talking to him during the course of yesterday as we negotiated. So to assure the House, because it is a serious position she's putting to me, on the question of security guarantees, there is nothing between the UK and the US, and we've been constantly discussing this over many, many weeks and months. We've made huge progress. I have personally spoken to President Trump about it on 2 occasions since we were last in this House. I do want to reassure her...
Oh, you had... Sorry, did you not have to wait for the press... Did you not have to wait for it to come on the TV, the press conference? Like you did to confirm the facts about the kidnapping of President Maduro? So you've got the direct line to Donald Trump now, conveniently, and you can brag about it. Just wanted to check. The facts. Good point there in the chat as well, Shouty Bloke, by Trump launching an attack from the UK on the Russian ship. And Herr Stormer, I like that one, Herr Stormer backing him. They've made the UK a viable target for Russia. We've mentioned this before about potential UK involvement, painting a target on our backs now, ourselves. If it does come to the crunch, people, you want me to use the W word? You want me to say it? But if it does come to that, this isn't going to be a good country to be in, that's for sure. But these days it's very safe. It's very safe. It's very difficult to try and think of what you would consider a safe place to live at all. But living in the UK in an international war, if we're up against Russia and China, don't know about that, people. Even if we are backed up by the US of states.
And the House in relation to that really important issue. In relation to defence spend, I'm proud that we're investing to keep our country safe, that we have increased the defence spend. That's provided for in the budget. It's the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War, and that means, Mr. Speaker, better kit,
well,
better
I just
housing
pointed it out,
for our
Keith.
forces, and
Keep
better
up.
defence as an engine for growth. Mr. Speaker, that does compare to their record. Ben Wallace, who was on the radio this morning, the longest-serving Conservative Defence Secretary, admitted that on their watch the armed services had been, in his words, hollowed out. And our defence...
Mr. Cartledge, you expect a lot. I expect something back, and that's silence. Prime Minister.
Who? Who's he talking? Mr. Cartilage? Cartilage? As in, like joint cartilage? Like in your knee? What? Did I mishear that? Or is there actually an MP called Cartilage that's escaped my attention for some reason? Strange. Let's carry on, nonetheless.
Mr. Speaker, they shout shame. I'll pass that on to Ben Wallace. Mr. Speaker, the defence spending that we've put in place is 3 years earlier than the unfunded plan that they left behind at the last election.
I nearly went for the buzzer then for plan.
Mr. Speaker, I heard what? Oh, wait for it. What Ben Wallace said...
What, wait? We normally get the same question just over and over again. Wait for it. Doc Davies, you're painting your windows black, yeah. If it comes to it. Might all have to.
Ben Wallace said was that spending had fallen under all governments. 3%, the last time, Mr. Speaker, the last time spending was at 3% was under a Conservative government. And yes, while we welcome...
The death throes of Margaret Thatcher and the early days of John... Oh dear, Major. Really? I don't think that's anything to celebrate. The poll tax era. Oh yes, the poll tax era and the Cold War. Everybody sure misses those good old days, don't they? What planet are you living on, Kemi? Fucking hell.
We welcome the increase, something that we supported. Can I remind the House that this is a man who sat in the shadow cabinet...
She's an outspoken Thatcherite, of course.
A man who said we shouldn't even be in NATO at all. So I don't need to take any lectures from him. The world is changing. We need to spend more on defence. He did not answer the question about when we would get to 3%. Yet he knows up until 2031 how much he's going to be spending on welfare. He doesn't know. That's in the Red Book. The Red Book has no money allocated for defence. We need to move from ambition to commitment. And Mr. Speaker, this is important because this isn't just about...
It's James Cartledge. James Cartledge. Not cartilage. Of course. Thanks for that, Ephra Wells. Yeah, misheard Lindsay Hoyle there, but that's easily done because he's got wet sponges for lips and a flannel for a tongue.
If the Prime Minister is deploying troops to Ukraine, those troops need to know that we have their backs. Last week, 7 former SAS commanders, 7 former SAS commanders warned that Labour's Northern Ireland Troubles Bill will wreck our special forces. Not me, that's the SAS. In November...
Mic's back on now, I think. Yep. Can you hear me? Sorry about the mic malfunction. Just pointing out, move the screen to the right again. Priti Patel there. Looking in a pretty evil, serious mood. For war, but let's not forget that she was sacked for giving military secrets to Israel. Just before the mic cut out as well. Well, to point out, you can only see half of her face in that shot, but it looks like a movie poster, you know, where the sort of a character has gone from good to being evil, and you see one half good and the other half evil, whatever. Maybe, you know, like a Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker kind of thing. Lots of examples out there in cinema, but Priti Patel, just to the right of Kemi Badenoch. I'm sure she'd love a good old World War. Absolute fucking twat.
9 retired 4-star generals warned that...
I nearly said something else about Priti Patel there, but I won't. I won't divulge that on stream.
His bill was a direct threat
I've not
to
been out with her or
national
anything,
security.
don't worry.
And even his own Northern Ireland Veterans Commissioner has said our veterans are
But
being
she does
treated
know me,
worse
sort
than
of.
terrorists. So, Mr. Speaker,
That's
is it
all I'll
not
say.
madness to be putting veterans in the dock for serving their country at the same time he is deploying today's soldiers into Ukraine?
Mr. Speaker, that was embarrassing. She said that Ben Wallace was talking about all government. They were in power for 14 years and they hollowed out our armed forces. Copyright Ben Wallace. Secondly, she talks about the shadow cabinet. She has in her shadow cabinet a shadow attorney general who is advising Abramovich at the same time as we are imposing sanctions on Russia and trying to use that money to support Ukraine. How can someone sit in her shadow cabinet?
Labour Friends of Russia, like, was a thing, you know, by the way.
And pretend
Keith.
that their policy is to support us on sanctions. And Mr. Speaker, when it comes to Northern Ireland,
It's in there somewhere. Just say Mr. Speaker until you find the appropriate notes. Harvey Dent, another good example there. Thanks for that one, Darren. Yeah. Priti Patel as Harvey Dent, Harvey Two-Face Dent.
they are the party that gave immunity to IRA terrorists. Terrorists who killed British soldiers. Their flawed act was struck down by the courts.
I think it's pretty reaching to say that the Tories backed the IRA, Keith. But there was a lot of double dealing and underhanded stuff going on. We don't have the details to go through that. Certainly, the UK has a lot to be ashamed about as well. But I would say wholesale saying that the Tories backed the IRA. That's clearly no Tory or fan of the Tories, but that's quite fantastical, if you'll forgive me, Keith, or even if you won't, because I've got no respect for you either.
Which left our veterans with no legal protection whatsoever. We're introducing a fair and transparent process with a package of rights and protections for our veterans. And, Mr. Speaker, there is no equivalence between our armed forces who fought bravely in Northern Ireland and terrorist groups. And if the Leader of the Opposition wants to go back, if her position is, to their old flawed legislation and give immunity to the IRA, she should stand up now and say so.
What? Oh, if you... of all people, I would put Kemi Badenoch quite squarely last of currently serving MPs or whatever. What is this? What is this? Ludicrous actions flying both ways in the first session of 26 here, people.
Mr. Speaker, let me start by talking about the Shadow Attorney General. Yes. Yeah. Do they know what the Shadow Attorney General is doing? He is defending veterans pro bono against the actions of this government. Yes. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we will defend those who defended us. But why don't we talk about the actual Attorney General who is sitting in Cabinet, the man who defended Jerry Adams, the man who's trying to bring Shamima Begum back into the country, the man who is helping to surrender...
What in the pissing hell is going on? It started off with hypotheticals about Greenland and Ukraine, and now all of a sudden we're harking back to the so-called Troubles, that is the Irish Civil War, and attempted annexation of Ireland by Britain, of course. But what we're going to be doing next, the Falklands, harping on about, I mean, where's this come from? And this is, I guess, just the we're better at war than you are. Or we're better at fighting terrorism or whatever than you are, back and forth. Why don't they just both put their hands up and say that neither party have clean records where that's concerned? Of course, Labour with Iraq too, to name one obvious example.
The Chagos Islands.
Oh, the
I will
Chagos
take our
Islands,
shadow
of course.
Attorney General every day of the week against his Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, we protect our veterans. I want the Prime Minister to know we protect our veterans. What he is doing to veterans is disgraceful. But this is serious, Mr. Speaker. I don't want the House to be under any illusions. I do not want the House to be under any illusions. The Prime Minister should know that we will absolutely support any efforts to help bring peace to Ukraine. We will work with him to ensure NATO remains the bedrock of our security. But we cannot write a blank cheque when he is also surrendering the Chagos Islands, surrendering our veterans to lawfare, and surrendering to his backbenchers by prioritising welfare handouts over defence spending. As if
Surrendering the vast majority of the British population, I would suspect, didn't even know that we still owned, air quotes, the Chagos Islands at this moment in time. Being a former empire, started to lose territory and bankrupt ourselves with it at the end of World War I. And it had more or less gone wholesale by the end of World War II. And of course there were other monumental moments like handing back Hong Kong in 1999 as well. So the Chagos Islands, get real. Most people wouldn't have any idea how to find that on a map. They probably wouldn't even get within 1,000 square kilometres.
the world has not become more dangerous. So, Mr. Speaker, isn't it time the Prime Minister changed course and for once put the British national interest first?
Mr. Speaker, she talks about the Shadow Attorney General. Of course I accept that lawyers have to represent all sorts of clients. Of course I accept that principle. The question is whether the Shadow Attorney General can sit in the Shadow Cabinet when the party opposite says it supports us on sanctions. We want the money from Chelsea Football Club to go to Ukraine. I'm not sure whether that's her position. If it is her position, presumably it's something they discuss in the Shadow Cabinet, advised by a Shadow Attorney General who is representing the very man whose money we want to send to Ukraine. If she can't see the conflict of interest in that, then she shows no judgment and no leadership at all. The same old. It's a new year, but the Leader of the Opposition's got absolutely nothing to offer the country. She is totally irrelevant. Nobody is listening to her.
She's ahead of you in the
Speaker,
polls.
this is the year when on...
We're actually going to have a quick look at a poll after PMQs, but shockingly, well, it's not shockingly, mostly owed to Keith's lack of popularity, but she is still ahead of him in the polls, which is probably the reason for this exchange here. He seems quite enthused at trying to personally undermine Kemi Badenoch because he feels threatened by her, because he's even now threatened by Zach Polanski and the Green Party in the polls, and the Lib Dems, of course.
This side, we turn a corner. People benefit from the decisions we made. £150 off energy bills, freezing rail fares, and lifting 500,000 children out of poverty. We're turning the corner, and there's much more to come.
It's turned so many corners, it's going around in circles, pretty much. Certainly where the syntax and vocabulary is concerned. It always does. Current score is security 4, deliver 1. No, I didn't. Well, I've not noticed so far that Farage is absent from this session. The camera's not really been in that direction yet, but haven't heard about that story either. Shouty bloke.
Well, the Prime Minister can keep the good news going because he's rightly made house building and economic growth key priorities.
And the planted question of the
By
week.
giving the go-ahead today to the Chesterfield-Staveley regeneration route, He'll help us to deliver 1,500 houses and 5,700 jobs on land that was previously coal mining and brownfield industrial land. It's not just a road, it is a growth project. So will the Prime Minister keep the good news coming and tell us that he'll support the Chesterfield-Staveley regeneration route?
Well, can I thank him for that question? I know that he's working hard on this scheme. As he knows, land investigation works are currently taking place to help establish the final costs. The Road Minister is looking closely at the scheme alongside about 40 others. We will prioritise schemes that deliver faster journeys and unlock new homes and jobs.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
4-2 now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I wish you a happy new year and everyone in this House? And can I welcome the progress made on security guarantees for Ukraine yesterday? Mr. Speaker, Geoffrey Robertson, KC, is a respected authority on international law. He's also the head of the Prime Minister's barrister chambers. And he couldn't be clearer.
Could we see a comeback? He's been on the ropes and come back before.
Illegal.
Postman Swat.
He says the United States, and I quote, is in breach of the United Nations Charter and has committed the crime of aggression, which the court at Nuremberg described as a supreme crime. Does the Prime Minister agree with his old mentor, or has he got it wrong?
Strong analogy there from Nuremberg. Slightly relevant. There was, of course, a film came out recently of Nuremberg. It's rather good, actually. I saw it and highly recommend it. I think it's a good interpretation. There are some historical inaccuracies here and there, and for dramatic purposes, whatnot. A few minor points, but just being a bit of a nerd about that myself. But if you want the satisfaction of seeing some Nazis get what's coming to them, I would strongly recommend that piece of cinema. Some really solid performances in there as well, actually, with Russell Crowe starring as Hermann Goering himself.
Things that Geoffrey and I have agreed on and disagreed with over the years, but let me set out our position. It is our long-standing position that Maduro was not a legitimate president in Venezuela. And so nobody, I think, sheds any tears at his removal. And what we need, what we were saying before the weekend, and we say again, is there needs to be a peaceful transition.
Keith, he's done my brain in, he's done it. It's gone, it's gone. What people think about Maduro doesn't come into it. The fact this is a breach of international law. Mr. International Lawyer himself, I can see streeting now, lurking in the background.
Democracy in Venezuela.
Just really
the benchmark
lost for
of
words
all
sometimes.
Of all countries is, of course, international law, and it is for the US
you know what
to
that is all of a
justify
sudden.
its actions accordingly. My focus is on the defence and security of the United
I'm not focusing on international law. My focus is what's it going to be on?
Kingdom. And yesterday we were working with NATO allies, including the US, on security guarantees for Ukraine, and it's only with security guarantees that we'll have a just and lasting peace.
There was at least one security in there, sorry, possibly two. This could be significant. Just take it back. I almost switched off there for a lack of belief in what I'm hearing from Starmer on this. Let's remind ourselves, of course, the UK did take part in those attacks on the vessels today, one of them being Russian. It was a mealy-mouthed mention of international law, and then swiftly, let's focus on something else instead. Such disregard. But I just want to hear that again. There was at least one security in there, so it's going to be at least 5-2.
Democracy in Venezuela. Now, the benchmark of all actions of all countries is, of course, international law, and it is for the US to justify its actions accordingly. My focus is on the defence and security of the United Kingdom, and yesterday we were working with NATO allies, including the US, on security guarantees for Ukraine. And it's only with security guarantees that we'll have a just and lasting peace in Ukraine, which is vitally important for Ukraine, for Europe and for the United Kingdom.
Sir Ed Davey.
Mr. Speaker,
a triple
the Prime
whammy
Minister
for
just
security
looks ridiculous
takes
when
us
he
to
won't
7-2.
tell the truth that Trump has broken
This is a stomping
international
score.
law. But turning to Donald Trump's next target, the Prime Minister was right to give the Danish Prime Minister his backing over Trump's threats to annex Greenland, and I welcome his joint statement with other European leaders.
Annex.
But does he also agree
Annex.
that if Trump does attack Greenland, it will be the end of NATO? And given that frightening possibility, does he accept that the UK needs to increase defence spending more quickly than currently planned and build...
Tonight, Sir Ed Davey will defy death by escaping from the burlap bag, chained together and set alight whilst in a hot air balloon over a nest of vipers. Coming tonight at 9 p.m, Sir Ed Davey.
New alliances with reliable nations.
Mr. Speaker, let me be... the Greenland issue is obviously very, very important. I thank him for raising it. The future of Greenland is for Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark, and for Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. And yesterday, he will have seen that I put out a statement to that effect, along with fellow allies in Europe. And of course, NATO is hugely important, the single most effective and important military alliance the world has ever known. He keeps encouraging me to sort of tug away at parts of NATO and to choose between Europe and the US. That would be a strategic mistake for our country. And yesterday we were working with our NATO allies, including the US, our NATO ally, on a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. That will not happen without security guarantees from the coalition of the willing, backed by the United States. That's a vitally important issue, and we made progress on that.
What guarantees can you get from Putin? Really? Get real.
And there won't be a just and lasting peace in Ukraine without those security guarantees, and not achieving a just and lasting peace in Ukraine is not in our national interest, and that's why I'm
There was a security in there as well, yeah.
applying so much time and energy to seeking to get that outcome.
Prime Minister, even its strongest advocates acknowledge that Northern Ireland is trapped in dysfunction, and not because reform is impossible, but because the DUP and Sinn Féin haven't allowed it. We've become a political Hotel California where the past is always around, but the future never arrives.
A political Hotel California? Or the song by the Eagles that's about heroin? Okay.
There's growing public consensus that some of Stormont's procedures simply aren't working, and the SDLP has found slivers of common ground across the political parties too. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that now is the time for a structured conversation which protects power sharing but which addresses the culture of veto and decline, so Stormont might finally take responsibility and start to deliver for the people?
Well, can I thank her for her question? The Belfast Good Friday Agreement is one of the greatest achievements of the last Labour government. And it...
So the mudslinging back and forth. Yeah, the Truss. The IRA. You were pals with the IRA, it wasn't us. Back and forth about Ireland, and then, of course, we have to respect the Good Friday agreements, and all's well now, all settled and peaceful, and no hard feelings, unless I'm throwing trash at Badenoch over there. Where we're just going to use the IRA as a political football, historically. And then someone from Northern Ireland gets up and asks a question, and it's all, oh yeah, peace, no, seriously though, no hard feelings. What a load of shit. Bag of shite.
Enshrined Northern Ireland's place in the United Kingdom and set out, as she well knows, I know, clear principles and processes under that framework. I'm aware of the Assembly and Executive Review Committee inquiry into institutional reform, but I can indicate that we're always happy to discuss any proposals for reform which would lead to a consensus.
Gavin Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, you will be aware of the grave concerns that abound around the Northern Ireland Troubles Bill, particularly amongst veterans and particularly among those who stand up for and speak out for the interests of those who defend our nation. And they have read the 6 protections in the bill and they don't see them as such. They offer no protection, they are procedural, and they apply to terrorists too.
They do.
So will the Prime Minister confirm that what we have heard is true, that the Ministry of Defence and the Northern Ireland Office intend to bring forward government amendments that will specifically and particularly protect veterans, and that they will offer protection?
Well, can I thank him for his question, and I know how deeply he feels about these issues. The bill, as he knows, will put in place new measures designed specifically to protect veterans. These safeguards have been developed with veterans in mind after carefully listening to their concerns. They have no respect at all, have they, for this issue?
Or just British veterans? What, you're trying to gloss about exclusivity for British veterans? He certainly doesn't look satisfied with your answer so far, Starmer.
We've been meeting with veterans' organisations and listening to their views, and when the bill reaches the committee stages, the House will see the result of those considerations, and you'll be pleased to hear that. We're determined to ensure protections are as fair and effective as possible, recognising the role that service personnel played in keeping people across the UK safe during the Troubles, and I thank him for his question.
Rachel Muskell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Having met with many independent business owners, they fear the cumulative impact of the rateable value revision and relief reductions. In York, hospitality sees an average business rate rise of 41%, a music venue 44.4%, and many independent shops increases around 27%. It will mean doors closing and trade ceasing. They just can't do it. So could the Prime Minister urgently review the business rate proposals, and will he ensure a minister or official attends my business rate summit at the end of January, as I want to avert a crisis on York's High Street?
It's happening all across the country. Pubs, bars, clubs, music venues especially closing down at an exponential rate. It has to be stopped because the rich and vibrant culture that we once had in this country is withering and wilting away.
Can I thank her for raising that issue? As she knows, during COVID, the rates went down, and that was coming to an end. And that's why we put in place interim relief as we move to the new rates. Mr. Speaker, we are continuing to work with and talk to the sector on that support and what further support and action we can take.
Sir Albee.
Mr. Speaker, the period after Christmas can be a challenging time for many people, and consequently, the month of January consistently sees higher rates of suicide than...
Well, if it isn't Darren Bullshit Jones there in the bottom left of your screen, who was on yesterday's live stream, of course, with us. Ridiculous. That is he, I believe. It's difficult to tell. That is the microphone, not not a forehead tattoo or some sort of medical device even. It's just perspective. Don't worry, people. But I think, yeah, bullshit artist, supreme. Let's hear the question.
Other times of the year, but suicide is preventable and lives can be saved. Education, raising awareness, targeting vulnerable groups are all effective suicide prevention strategies, and I was pleased to see them in the recent Men's Health Strategy. But I'm calling on the Government to go a step further and to launch a public health campaign to encourage discussions about suicidal thoughts and ideations. So will the Prime Minister agree to continue this conversation with me, and will he state his support for a public health campaign to tackle the worryingly high number of deaths from suicide in this country?
Can I thank her for raising this issue and assure her that we want to work with all colleagues across the House on this crucial issue, and it's in our interest to do so. We did, as she said, launch the first ever men's health strategy, announcing over 3.5.
Just sociologically speaking, this comes hand in hand with poverty. That is the direct primary reason for a lot of these cases as well. Brought up a few times before on the channel now. The statistics get increasingly shocking. I believe it's now, it was 35, it's now approaching under 40 years of age. Not heart attacks, not strokes, but the leading cause of death, unfortunately, is those who have taken their own lives. Many of them because of so-called economic circumstances, what the government might describe as the fiscally challenged, but they're the arbiters of that. Any fake sentiments of sympathy coming from Labour or the Tories on this issue purely have to be disregarded. There's nothing but crocodile tears.
£1 million into supporting suicide prevention support programmes, recruiting over 7,000 mental health workers, including access to talking therapies, rolling out mental health support teams in schools. It is vital that we raise awareness and increase the support available, and I can assure her ministers would be happy to discuss her proposals with her, because I genuinely want to work across the House on this really serious and tragic issue.
Masterson.
Speaker, I was very pleased to hear that the government's latest announcement about the role.
Not to lower the tone of that issue, that's obviously a very serious issue, but there it was again, as always, the cutaway shot to a nodding West Streeting whenever a healthcare issue is raised. It's so predictably performative that we've created this very game of Keith's catchphrases around it, and can now even predict which way the camera shots are going to go.
Out of the chickenpox vaccine. This, of course, is in stark contrast to the vaccine conspiracy theories being peddled by Reform. Does my right honourable friend agree that it is only with a Labour government that healthcare in this country is safe, and that Reform must never ever be in a position to be responsible for the health of this country?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased about the measures we're able to announce this week. Of course, that comes on top of the 5 million extra appointments that we've delivered in the first year of a Labour government, and 300,000 taken off the waiting list, and more to come as we turn the year into 2026. But he's absolutely right. They laugh at the denial of the importance of vaccines. Imagine where this country would be if they ever saw power. And if you want an example, or to be like, look at the local councils where they won power. They're absolutely chaotic, in a mess, and putting taxes up.
Peter Bedford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike many of his parliamentary colleagues, I don't actually think the Prime Minister should resign.
Can sometimes get on a roll with the delivers. You never know.
Detox, if you will, on his government's appalling economic policies and tax rises, particularly business rates, and the impact it's having on the hospitality sector. Now, will the Prime Minister commit to doing that today?
Mr. Speaker, I'll reflect on the fact that inflation is falling, and the Bank of England says that it's going to be down to target. I'll reflect on the fact we've had 6 interest rate cuts in a row. Mortgages, those with mortgages will be hugely effective. I'll reflect on the fact the IMF say we're going to have the second highest growth in 2025, defying the forecast. And I'd remind them that under them we had inflation at 11%, the worst parliament on living standards on record, and the Leader of the Opposition thinks that Liz Truss was 100% right to crash the economy. They're literally the only people who think that anybody should be listening to them. Nobody is.
John Baxter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Adrian Howe was a successful and dedicated Vodafone store manager of over 20 years.
That's a fascinating start. Let's see where this is going.
In 2017, he was offered the opportunity to take on a franchise of one of their thriving stores.
This is incredible. Tell us more.
But then the goalposts changed.
Oh, no.
And he was then forced to take on a struggling store. And just days before he was due to open that store...
Do you know what? not even bothered about Palestine and Yemen and all that anymore. Tell us more about this mobile phone shop manager.
Adrian stepped into a lake and didn't ever return home.
Oh, shit. Well, that is very bad, actually.
Wife, and widow, my
Didn't mean to make light of it.
Tracy, is wondering if the Prime Minister will review franchising legislation to ensure there is a balance of power between companies and the franchisees so that nobody else...
I thought this was going to be a businessy question. Apologies, I didn't know she was going to get, like, incredibly dark there. Just to be very clear, I'm not making light of those kind of situations. Just the way that she started the story.
feels undue pressure when they take on a franchise.
It is a business, a very dark businessy question in a way, to do with franchises. Of course, a lot of outlets now are franchised, especially within the food industry, and so on and so forth. Mobile phones, as we heard an example of there. But let's see what Starmer's got to say about it. There's not too long left in this session. Possibly 5 behind, but you wouldn't put it past Postman Swat.
And I speak for the whole House in saying I'm deeply sorry to hear about this tragic case, and all of our thoughts are with the family. Obviously, there's a live legal case I can't comment on, but I can reassure her that we'll look closely at the final outcome of that case. There are strong rules in place, but we will look at the outcome of the case to see whether there's more that can be done.
Alison Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Late last year, the cargo vessel Baltic Clipper lost 16 containers off the beautiful West Sussex coastline. Beaches and seas in my Bognor Regis and Littlehampton constituency have been polluted with toxic debris. The clean-up was initiated and led almost exclusively by resolute local volunteers. So will the Prime Minister join me in paying tribute to all those involved for their extraordinary efforts? And will he, or the relevant minister, meet with me to ensure that the coastline is restored and that local taxpayers will not pick up any costs?
Well, let me join her in paying tribute to the agencies and the local volunteers who supported the clean-up efforts. They're the very best, and I do pay tribute to them and join her in doing that. Liability sits with the polluter, and agencies and her local authority should work with the responsible party to recover the costs. I will make sure that she gets the meeting that she has asked it for with the appropriate minister.
Well, if it was caused by deregulation, then it's on the government, actually, Keith.
Constituents who lost their babies at Leeds Teaching Hospital's NHS Trust. Now, understandably, their confidence in the system is at an all-time low, and they want answers about the circumstances in which at least 56 babies and 2 mothers have died in recent years. So will the Prime Minister update the House on what steps he is taking to ensure that an inquiry uncovers the factors which led to these deaths, to confirm Donna Ockenden as chair of that inquiry, and to join me in paying tribute to the courageous families campaigning to ensure that nobody has to suffer the same tragedy again?
Well, can I start by saying every mother and baby deserves safe, high-quality, compassionate care. And I want to see the inquiry at Leeds start as soon as possible. We're working with bereaved families to shape our approach and to appoint a chair who they can trust, as he knows. I have a huge amount of respect for Donna Ockenden. She's an outstanding advocate for families. We'll make sure that we select a chair of the highest standard who has the independence and expertise needed to deliver the real change that is needed.
Angus MacDonald.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, according to the Office for National Statistics, 174,000 people under the age of 35 moved abroad in the year ending June 2025. In the Highlands, this problem is especially acute. Demographic statistics show that young people are not staying in the rural communities. Pupil numbers are down by 40 to 50% of the schools over the last 20 years. Rural depopulation and youth emigration are two sides of the same story: lack of opportunity. We have a
capitalism and big business says come to the city and, look, you know, everything's here and yada, yada, yada. You can have everything you want, and that's what they advertise, but that's what they put on a plate. That's the basis for this mega capitalism. Now it's bound to have an effect on rural areas, so it draws people away as an obvious consequence.
Demographic crisis. What is the Prime Minister doing to ensure the UK offers strong apprenticeship and skills pathways for young people? And does he agree that the SNP's failure in Scotland, diverting away 170 million intended for apprenticeships and skills development, shows exactly what happens when opportunity is not delivered?
Well, can I thank him and tell him, alongside the record settlement that we've put in place for the Scottish Government, we're delivering huge investment in apprenticeships and offer a paid placement for every young person, which is vitally important. The SNP, on the other hand, blocked a welding facility in the Clyde because apparently it was related to defence. They don't back Scottish industry, young people or national security. We do.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government is tackling patient waiting lists through NHS modernisation.
A couple of questions left.
Does the Prime Minister agree with me that we need to tackle victim waiting lists by reforming our courts and criminal justice system? Prime Minister.
Yes, I do, Mr. Speaker, and I've been working with victims of violence against women and girls for the best part of 20 years, and I've assured them time and again that if we get the opportunity, we would make the system work better for them. They have to wait far too long for justice, and in many cases they don't see justice at all. I'm absolutely determined that we're going to turn that around.
Final question, when born.
So security in there? Well, it's after the fact.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised not to bulldoze the countryside, but under Labour, green fields in Aldridge Brownhills, Donald Road, Birch Lane and
There's a shout out in the chat that there might have been a overlooked security.
Bosty Lane are now under threat. Will he accept that his housing target can be met without destroying our farmland and our countryside, but by reusing empty homes and brownfield land? Or was this just yet another promise he never meant to keep?
We're not going to plough through farmland.
Everyone's already started walking out.
Going to make sensible proposals to build houses, something they failed to do in 14 long years. So young people now have not got the dream of home ownership because the inheritance we got from them. We're going to turn that around.
Right, that completes Prime Minister's questions. Let the front bench change over.
Okay, that was it. Prime Minister's questions. A clear victory. With security outscoring the league leader in a shocking victory and first defence. 8-4. 8-4, people. How's about that?
We now come to Prime Minister's questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Deliver. Black hole plan for change. 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 Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So, let's see how that affects the league. It'll only concern the top half. Security will still be in third, but with 6 points, just one behind Budget in second, and will be defending the win next week. So a chance to surpass Budget and perhaps gain further ground on Postman Swap. Also with 8 mentions, that could come into play as well, or possibly 9. We'll confirm that post-stream. So that's how it's going to look. So I don't have the means to update it in real time. This isn't fucking match of the day. But we'll be back next week with another Keys Catchphrases. Alright, moving on. It's a little bit late, so I guess we'll do the first half of this interview, the Liz Truss show, Might not even last for the first half, to be honest. Only one way to find out, though. And then possibly do the second half on another stream. Later it's gone. 20 to midnight here in the UK. Just going to have a very quick moment to grab a drink, people. And I'll be right back with you. We'll move on to the Liz Truss show with Jacob Rees-Mogg. Oh, Nanny, don't be so rough. Alright, let's get cracking. As I mentioned yesterday, we did have to postpone this part of the live stream. But it's not the entire show, it's just the Jacob Rees-Mogg interview, thankfully. Not the whole thing. So we'll do the first part tonight and then the second part on the next stream. And then just quickly catch up on one or two other stories. Again, brace yourselves, people. This is going to be something. This is going to be something, isn't it?
I'm delighted today to be joined by Jacob Rees-Mogg, a former cabinet colleague of mine, formerly in my cabinet, and now a fantastic voice for freedom. So, Jacob,
first observations. I pointed this out on social media as well, just a picture, a snapshot of it. She's got a fancy neon sign now, look at that, and has also done an incredibly good job at covering the wiring. I'm almost 100% certain that she does all of this herself. This might take place in her house. I don't know for certain, but I dare say. So she's got the neon sign there with the wire dangling down. And the cactus has been replaced with a red plant of some sort. I'm not sure if that's some sort of lotus or whatever it is. But a few new updates as well. Jacob Rees-Mogg looks incredibly engaged from the beginning and excited to be there. I'm sure he is.
Talk about where Britain is today in 2025 and how things might have been different had the policies of our administration been implemented.
Well, the country's in a terrible state. The really simple thing is that we're spending too much and we are earning too little. And so taxation is as high as it's ever been. It's about 38% of GDP.
Just between them, they know the square root of absolutely naff all, just to be very clear. Graham, thank you very much for that super chat. Yeah, I really do appreciate it. Solidarity. You're always welcome on live streams. Very good evening to you. Big up, big up. Graham Turner in the chat, please, everybody. So, Rees-Mogg is off and running, and it's immediately, we're getting a sense of, if only people had listened to us. And just a reminder that Liz here lasted 40 days, and pretty much crashed the economy.
Taxation in the UK never gets above 38% of GDP, and expenditure is at 45%. So you've got a 7% gap, which is about £200 billion a year. And there's a little bit of fees and there's a little bit of asset sales, but basically there's a £200 billion gap. And the government has no idea of how to fill that. and its tax raises are slowing the economy, so it's all getting worse.
We're in an economic doom loop, aren't we? And this is exactly what we tried to get out of in...
What, capitalism? No, you didn't. Liz Truss and Jacob Rees-Mogg want to get us out of late-stage capitalism, do they? I don't think so.
2022. We could see the way things were going, that we were already in a negative spiral. What Labour have done is basically put an accelerator on that.
That's right. Labour has managed to do the reverse of what you tried to do. So you tried to get the economy going by cutting taxes and were waiting to cut expenditure at a later stage. Labour, instead of cutting taxes to boost the economy, is simply increasing expenditure with no plan or idea of how to achieve growth.
We also tried to do supply side. So we tried to get Britain fracking, which you were in charge of, Jacob.
God.
One of the big things holding the British economy back now.
Whilst Liz Truss was in government, I was out on the streets of London with JSO, and fracking came up a lot, and she's going on about fracking yet again. Both of them will ignore the elephant in the room, which is public expenditure, public investment, that is, which is what's needed for economic growth and the taxing of the very wealthiest in our society, the top fractions of the top 1%, and they won't entertain that either. This is a first-time watch, but you can guarantee that. And now, it was because we didn't do fracking. Don't get me started, Liz. It's coming up to midnight, and yeah, we could be here till the sun comes up on that one.
It's just how high our energy prices are.
No, you're absolutely right. If you look at US and UK GDP per capita, you know this because your Growth Commission has focused on it. We were 90% of US GDP per capita in 2000. We're now 60%. And the biggest single difference between the US and the UK economy over that period is energy prices.
But the other thing that I think has been a major factor in why the British economy has been such a failure for the last 30 years is monetary policy. And what we've seen is the printing of money, quantitative easing. We've seen pretty appalling interest rate policy pursued by the Bank of England. What sort of factor do you think that is?
Well, I think there's a lot of history in this and what has worked. And
Neither of them know that they were in government for so long.
Think about what happened in Germany, what happened with Greenspan, and then have tried to apply it to the UK ineffectively. So go back to Germany. The Deutschmark, up until the point it joined the euro, was incredibly strong. Why? Because of the Bundesbank. Why was the Bundesbank so strong? Because of the Weimar Republic and the Weimar inflation. What was the Bundesbank's...
They're the biggest country in Europe, Jacob. It's the most populous country in Europe, that is. But, you know, Western Europe. But Jesus. It sounds to me that he's trying to scrape a Brexit benefit out of something to do with the Deutschmark post-EU. Ridiculous.
One job was to stop inflation. It did it very successfully, and the pound fell steadily against the Deutschmark over this period because the Bundesbank was very well run and was run by extremely clever people, but it had been given a constitutional objective of holding prices steady to avoid the Weimar experience. Then you had Greenspan in America. And Greenspan's very interesting because I think he's an absolutely disastrous
Just the Weimar experience. World War II.
Of the Federal Reserve, because he uses monetary policy to stop markets moving in what he views as the wrong direction. And he tweaks monetary policy to flood the market with cash when he thinks the market is weak, and take cash out when he thinks it's too strong.
I know what you're trying to say here, Rees-Mogg. I know that it is bollocks as well, but you have to understand that Liz Truss doesn't even fundamentally understand what you're saying here, the terms that you're using, and so on and so forth. This is Liz Truss that we're talking about.
And people have looked at that and thought, well, the American economy has done well, and the German economy...
He's going to go on for a while here, and I'm guessing she's just going to come back with something that's complete... Look at her face. Look at her face. She's going to come back with something completely irrelevant.
Gordon...
Like... He's going to try and make this long-winded point about European banks and so on. And then she's just going to go, why am I not Prime Minister anymore, Jacob?
Brown then copies that, thinking that that will work in a UK experience. And it doesn't. First of all, they don't actually have a monetary policy. They set interest rates, but they're not looking at monetary aggregates. The Monetary Policy Committee almost never makes
know what monetary policy even means.
Monetary aggregates, as in the medium-term financial strategy of Howard Norton. That's not what they're interested in. They get focused on inflation.
Aside from the odd blink and a minor adjustment of posture in a seat, it's very difficult to tell if Liz Truss is conscious at all. She's certainly not compass.
Targeting, but they don't realise that monetary actions can have long-term effects. So quantitative easing takes place, and they do absolutely nothing to roll it back.
They decide to make it happen. Yes. They do exercise monetary policy. They just don't have a monetary target. They abandoned the monetary target in the 1990s.
And they don't look at anything that relates to monetary policy. They're just looking at inflation. They were just looking at inflation targeting. Were they achieving that? So when you flood, or when they flooded the market in 2008, all they were concerned about was inflation.
Don't even know where to begin with how wrong this is.
Hundreds of billions of pounds into the economy would have long-term inflationary consequences. So they then do nothing to reverse it until too late, really, until you get to COVID, when they put more money into circulation, which is a terrible mistake, because although in 2008 you've got a credit crisis and a lack of available cash, when you get to COVID, you've got a supply crisis, that simply the supply chains break down, so printing more money is bound to be inflationary. And
what did Milton Friedman say?
What did Milton Friedman say? So anyway,
inflation is
always and everywhere
a monetary phenomenon, and he was right.
And Andy Haldane, the chief economist at the Bank of England, points this out to them. He says this is inflationary, so what do? They ease him out. So they had somebody in a role there to warn them, did his job very well, and it's against the groupthink, it's against the consensus.
I'm literally only interrupting at this point just to say our security once more.
So he has to leave the Bank of England. He should, in fact, have been governor of the Bank of England.
Well, that's a matter of opinion, Jacob.
Okay. He'd have done it better, but there are...
What is that on the double S there? Did she not... Maybe she thought she was going to get banned for having SS in neon letters right next to Jacob Reese-Mogg's head. The Liz True SS show. Tonight we'll be discussing our security on the Liz True SS show. But why? What is that? It looks just like a slapdash. Did it break? And it's just put a huge sticking plaster on it. Nobody will notice. Is there a cobweb growing over the R, or am I just getting cataracts? Well, I don't know. It's difficult to tell. This is all very slapdash.
Well, the current governor is particularly bad. But
the
of course,
Liz True
Mark
SS show.
That, who's now busy ruining Canada as the governor of the Bank.
Can't believe it took me until that moment to actually realise that.
Bank of England. But I agree with you completely about the failings of monetary policy. The fact that the bank abandoned monetarism in the late 80s, early 90s. They abandoned monetarism. They basically got taken over by Keynesianism. But there was never any public discussion about it.
Keynesianism
this happened behind closed doors. The policy was altered. They were made unaccountable by Gordon Brown. And certainly what I discovered as Prime Minister was the Bank of England governor had more power. Certainly when I didn't necessarily have the entire Conservative Party behind me, but they had more power than the elected Prime Minister of the day. And that was...
You were the only person in the fucking universe who didn't realise that. That it's banks. Of course it's banks. You didn't know that until you became Prime Minister and you made your budget, and the Bank of it were like, no way, no way. Everything crashed. How naive can you be? And yeah, she didn't win the election. She became Prime Minister by default, if you want to put it that way, having won the leadership race against Rishi Sunak initially, before he succeeded her. But to not know the true power of the Bank of England until you became Prime Minister. Do you know anything at all? You can't sit here and tell us all that you and Reese-Mogg are going to lecture us on economics when you didn't know that the Bank of England probably is a very powerful, unelected entity.
There's a system created by Blair and Brown.
Yes, throughout my political career, I've always been trying to work out where power is. When I got into the House of Commons, I wondered if it was there. When I became a minister, I wondered if...
But there's one thing that this tells us, people. Governments aren't made up of economists, sociologists, other professionals in healthcare, nurses, in teaching, teachers, for example. It's made up of careerists and business people, essentially. That is why we get the characters that we do. That's why we get the boardroom language and syntax that we do, because they know nothing. Some of them might claim to have studied a bit here and there, but it just goes to show that I didn't know that until we came into government. People have reported on this and written about this for decades. Naivety's stultifying.
If it was in ministerial office. When you became Prime Minister, I wondered if the Prime Minister had the power, and indeed Boris as well. And the closer I got to where I thought power was, the more it seemed to be somewhere else. And I think, unfortunately, power is not exercised by people who are democratically accountable, but we have set up systems, going right back to the early 90s, that give power to...
You say we?
Don't
you mean Tony Blair?
No, I don't, unfortunately.
Jacob, in the early 90s, we nearly came out of the exchange rate mechanism. It was a total disaster under John Major, narrowly avoided. Black Wednesday, ring a bell? No? Is it about to tell us that some of the history of Britain that he wants to champion is from the early 1990s economically, when we were clearly in a recession, pardon me, which is why then, of course, John Smith became so popular. Then he unfortunately, tragically died. Tony Blair took over from him. The majority in the polls actually whittled away under Blair, but still led to a landslide in the end. The early 90s as something to shout about. Well, let's see what he's got to say anyway, but it's going to be bollocks.
Some of the arm's length body activity starts late Thatcher Major period. This decision that decisions should be taken from politicians because they're erratic, they make decisions for political reasons, and give it to experts. So it certainly begins to start with Major.
It starts in 1854.
Oh, with Northcote Trevelyan. Not really. I mean, a word in defence of Northcote Trevelyan. Northcote Trevelyan.
We are going to come to blows.
Well,
just tell them, Jacob.
I've got to have a soft spot for Northcote Trevelyan because my sister-in-law's a descendant of Stratford Northcote. So I've always...
This is no excuse to justifying the
familial prejudice. Northcote Trevelyan was trying to solve a different problem. What it was trying to do was to stop jobbery and patronage being used to put completely incompetent people into jobs because they were related to the minister. And that's why you bring in an exam in civil service.
Don't you think that the cure was worse than the disease? Because that is ultimately the philosophy of saying elected politicians can't be trusted to appoint people. We need these independent people who are... and that, what has happened is the...
No. I'm not going to let them try and make the connection between the power of the Bank of England and if there was any cutting back on nepotism within politics. That's certainly not what this is all about. That's certainly a false association that it looks like they're trying to carve out with this.
Over time, being able to capture these people.
Yes, but the politicians have arranged this. So rather than blaming the individual civil servants...
No, I mainly blame Tony Blair. I mean, I think he's the biggest
I agree with that. He took it much further than we had. But I would blame Parliament, because Parliament handed over all of its powers, to hand over power to the European Union in the 1972 European Communities Act. So that starts the rot.
No, we didn't.
Lots of decisions that Parliament...
No, we didn't, you liar. That's an absolute lie. It's just a lie.
Act post-1997 to the Governor of the Bank of England. It hands over powers to the Climate Change Committee and the Climate Change Act.
Oh, fuck you.
The Rights Act that gives the judges much more power. It then sets up the Supreme Court that gives the judges more power.
Oh, you're right. Let's just abandon human rights then and climate rights. What the fuck are you babbling on about, you haunted pencil? You discarded Jim Henson puppet. Jesus Christ.
Everything since 1960.
It's a budget responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
A particular bête noire of mine.
Well, it's right to be, because...
Bête noire of Rachel Reeves.
Indeed, of course it is. And because Gordon Brown handed away monetary policy and George Osborne then handed away fiscal policy to people who are utterly unaccountable debaters. Also, they're wrong. They're not any good. If they were...
They're Keynesians. And they've adopted the same economic philosophy as people like
She's really
Alan
trying to wedge
Greenspan,
Keynesianism
but
into
of
the conversation.
The Davos globalist mindset. Pro-net zero, pro-DEI, pro-mass migration, pro-printing money. And it was never... one of the frustrations I have is this was never overtly discussed.
No, you're quite right.
It was in the background, and frankly, a lot of MPs in the House of Commons don't even understand basic economics. It's never been discussed. We only had to get an ABR forecast, I believe it was once a year, and we knew that it would be a bad thing to get an ABR forecast because they are fundamentally not of our...
Psychiatrist not answering his phone. I'm quite concerned here.
Our way of thinking. They believe in Keynesian economics. They believe that government spending is good and that supply-side economics, what George Bush described as voodoo...
I told my psychiatrist about the show and the problems that I had with the debut episode, and they watched it, and now they themselves have a psychiatrist.
Economics is bad and dangerous. So we worked on what was a plan, essentially from economic first principles, to revive the British economy. I remember you put forward the idea of a flat tax, which I absolutely love, but we decided it was too much too soon.
I think I'm the only person who suggested an idea that was too radical even for you. But I thought...
It's not ever too radical, Jacob. It was just, given the constraints we were operating in the time, we had to calibrate what we were doing.
Crucially, I thought it was affordable. Because I thought you could... I'm a great believer in the Ronald Reagan principle, that you have low tax rates and very few write-offs or exclusions.
You lost me right there.
I thought if you removed pension write-offs and pension contribution benefits, you could pay for a flat tax of 20%. And actually, there were other things you could have done, two other exemptions you could have taken away that would have meant you had more money coming in on the Treasury ready reckoner.
We should do what Ronald Reagan did. Oh my God.
Than you currently do. So it would have been deficit reducing rather than adding to the deficit. And you could have made corporation tax, income tax, and capital gains tax all at 20%.
What I want to do is explain to people really what happened at the time and how we were blindsided by the actions, particularly of the Bank of England.
I think one thing always to bear in mind is the role luck plays in politics, because the Bank of England was getting everything wrong at the time. The day before the
I like the way you use the word everything wrong at the time. Like, they've got everything wrong for pretty much the last 20 years.
But the Bank of England has subsequently admitted that 75% of the problem was caused by it, not by anything you did.
But that's correct.
You notice how there was an edit there. There was a little cut. You might imagine, I certainly could, that might have been caused by the fact that she interjected there. Perhaps, obviously this is just hypothetically speaking, some sort of massive brawl erupted between the two of them, and then they had to just quickly regroup.
The Bank of England has subsequently admitted that 75% of the problem was caused by it, not by anything you did.
Well, that's correct, but even in the circumstances it did happen, where it was the day before the mini-budget, isn't it extraordinary that I, as Prime Minister, was not briefed on?
And this is, again, boiling down to what we all knew it would be, the I should still be Prime Minister thing. It was everyone against me, boo-hoo, yada yada. Even Reese-Mogg knows it, and he's sick of hearing it as he probably knocks back another black coffee there while he's in a sweaty hangover or something, whatever, between the underneath the fucking neon lights of the Liz True SS show.
What they were planning. To me, this just shows the whole system is completely ineffective, or more than ineffective, that the unelected think that they don't have any kind of duty to tell the elected what they're actually doing.
Also, I don't think the proper remit of Bank of England independence. The bank is independent on interest rates, but QE and QT was a joint policy between the Treasury and the Bank of England, because the Treasury had underwritten the losses that the Bank of England could have made and has subsequently.
He sounds like he's about to fucking yak up. Jesus Christ. What time do they film this? And what was he doing the night before? Because we've just seen him downing several coffees or whatever. And now he sounds as though he's on the verge of spewing
on the whole QE programme. And therefore it needed the consent of the bank, of the Treasury, to carry on. So it's absolutely peculiar that the Treasury was not fully informed of this and had not accepted that they were about to enter QT.
But what I found, and I was a Treasury Minister back in 2017, is that the Treasury did not want to involve themselves in monetary policy. And they essentially said to me and to Philip Hammond, who was the then Chancellor, that we have an independent monetary policy. So the system, the Treasury officials, the Bank of England officials, the ABR officials, believes that these powers had been handed over. And I said, that's not true. The Treasury sets the remit for the Bank of England, such as the 2% inflation target. It's only right that this remit should be revisited. You know, it was set back in 1997. But they were so beholden to the whole concept of independence that they were very, very reluctant to challenge that taboo.
I think you're too nice to Treasury officials.
I've never been accused of that before.
But you're gained a bit. You're gained a bit because I think they like to keep ministers up.
Yeah, he's a fucking weirdo. A very queer chap indeed, with his phony old Etonian accent. Doesn't even speak the Queen's, you know.
Right a bit.
Or the King's.
In all the meetings,
That's definitely true.
But in all the meetings I had as a minister, the Treasury officials were the most arrogant. Actually, the whole of the Treasury building is really interesting. If you went in as a minister to the Cabinet Office and indeed Bayes had the most delightful security teams. Always helpful, always polite, always doing their bit. If you went into the Treasury, you had the rudest, most difficult.
The ways gangly arms flail around.
And I think
like
around the whole way through,
I said, a discarded Jim Henson
a
puppet.
nuisance, a bore to be coped with. And I think it is a really rotten department.
But it essentially is the most powerful department in the government. And the Bank of England is essentially a wing, all closely allied with the Treasury.
There's only a few minutes left now. We may as well brave through the whole thing.
The officials travel between the Treasury and the Bank of
I'll
England.
talk over more than
Sometimes
interject, and then
they
it'll
hop off for a
be
job
over
at
sooner
Goldman
rather than
Sachs,
later.
but then they're back in either the Treasury or the Bank of England. And that
But we're just hearing the same old
most powerful
from Liz.
people in the government. I have talked to many of my friends in the US, and they tell me the State Department is actually the most powerful part of the American deep state. But certainly it's the Treasury that is the tail wagging the dog of government. I completely agree with that. And that's why when I became Prime Minister,
Treasury's
Kwasi
part
and
of the
I
government.
decided to move Tom Sculler on, because he was really very much of that ideology, anti-Brexit, pro-mass migration, pro-net zero. And we recognised that all of these bodies were a problem, that the Bank of England was a problem, that the OBR was a problem, and the Treasury itself.
I don't like the things Donald Trump doesn't like.
Time and where
So on,
to deal with it in its entirety. And I certainly believe that these people were not on my side. And, we were fighting against a system that did not believe
You
in
were the
supply side
system.
policies.
You were in government.
There were believers in the Keynesian orthodoxy, and they were going to do everything they could to try and succeed it. And when...
But she's just stuck on repeat here. But she's referring to the system of capitalism. Of course they weren't fighting against that. It's the Conservative Party, for Christ's
They admitted that
sake.
in 2024, though, long after I was gone. But when there were problems in the markets, there was leaking and briefing 24/7 coming from Treasury officials, Bank of England officials, the OBR themselves, who claimed there was a £70 billion black hole. Now we know from Rachel Reeves, these black holes sort of constantly appear and disappear, but they were claiming that. And what I'm saying is, when we put together the mini budget, which in my view, I still believe was an absolute sensible package.
He's struggling
of
to
policy,
comprehend, as we all are.
in a very different position had it been implemented. We were not given...
It's hard enough when you're sober, but whatever Reese-Mogg's been on.
Into the QT programme, into the problem with LDIs. I don't know if you want to explain a bit about the LDIs, Jacob, as a financial markets expert.
Well, again, the LDI problem is a much deeper one than this, because you had the pension fund regulator telling funds that they had to buy gilts. So you kept the value of gilts down. You were making companies put more money into their pension funds to make up for the deficit. You had very low interest rates. Very low interest rates had two effects on pension funds. One was when you discounted back their liabilities came out to be very high. And the other was that the pension funds were making very low returns. So it was very difficult for them to make ends meet. So the pension funds, under instruction really from the regulator, got into LDIs, which allowed them to borrow to gear up their performance. Then interest rates start going up, and these borrowings become expensive. The returns are fixed because they're in gilts, so pension funds had a gap.
How much do you think this was deliberate sabotage?
A good
And how
points
much do you
there in
think
the
it was
chat, Graham. Yeah, she did
just
mean the Office of Budget Responsibility as well.
I never think the British state is clever enough to run a conspiracy, but that you have people with similar vested interests who are working in the same way. And you've got rid of Tom Sculler, therefore you would upset all their mates. So they were right.
We would never have got the mini budget through if Tom Sculler was there. This was the problem. So you're kind of damned if you do.
I'm not blaming you for the decision, but the decision meant that all his friends in high places, the Andrew Baileys of this world, were not sympathetic because they all like Tom. Tom, I don't know him actually, but I understand he's very personable, got a very strong network, and that network inevitably, on personal grounds, was unsympathetic to what was being done. They felt he was...
I don't think they were sympathetic in the first...
What's this going on? You're doing it again. No, I don't think it was like that. I think it was this way. There's the Bank of England and the OBR and then again. And you can see Reese-Mogg getting increasingly frustrated by this as well.
Place, because during the leadership election, I'd gone on record saying that Britain's monetary policy hadn't worked, that the Bank of England had failed on inflation,
which was
that the OBR
obviously true,
had got every single forecast wrong. But you're kind of caught in this situation in politics of, if you were honest about how bad things are, you create a whole bunch of enemies who are part of the current system, who then want to destroy you. Well, thank you very much, Jacob.
Always a pleasure.
Coming on the show. Thank you.
This is it. That was it. That was it. Thank God that's over. So that was the Liz True SS show. The latest episode of I'm Not Prime Minister Anymore. Wah wah wah. Boo fucking who. Quite painful, not as traumatic as the first episode, I do have to say. But wow. Wow, that was something. I bet she really had to. Oh, please come on the show. I'm so busy. Yeah, of course he is. Square Peg. Thanks for signing up for a membership. Takes us over the 170 mark. Awesome stuff. Please welcome and big up Square Peg in the chat, please, everybody. Adjust the goal. Adjust the targets. 170. Big up, big up.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
I can dig it indeed. Yeah, 170 on the way towards 250 now. And that gives us a great opportunity to thank all of the members on the channel once again. Other ways you can help to support us here on My Left Eye are with super chats, which are also open, as well as super thanks, and there's a Buy Me a Coffee page in the description of the stream. Give us a share on your social media as well, if you will, please, people. That really is important for helping the channel grow. Lots of perks to enjoy for any new members as well. Hit the perks button, you'll find out what they are, more to come soon as well. I also heard recently, I'm not sure if I'll make use of this function myself, but apparently now streamers can have segments of the live streams as members only while the stream is live. Apparently. For everybody else it'll cut off or whatever. Not sure how you people feel about that. I'm not entirely sure what I think about it, let alone if I would use it on the channel. It's not currently a listed perk, but static emojis and lots of other great things are, so do check them out. This does bring us towards the end of the stream tonight, but I'm looking for a raid as we speak. Let's see who we might redirect into, so please do stick with us. Please just check that you've hit thumbs up on the stream as well, please, people. we have this space. So we're going to raid there. Yeah, and we'll catch up with the latest on those other stories on the next one, people. More to come from my left eye, but that's it for the Brews at 10 and Keith's catchphrases this evening. Take care, everybody. My left eye will be seeing you soon. Power to the people. Free Palestine, Yemen, Lebanon, Sudan, Venezuela, the Fulton 24, potentially Greenland, Canada. The list goes on. But whatever you're doing with your time, have a good night. See you soon. Solidarity.